This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today, we dive into the popular world of a Netflix show that's on its 4th season called Narcos. It puts you in the roles of this series' most powerful characters and factions as they rewrite the story behind the rise and fall of El Patron. One person acts as El Patron, managing a growing narcotics empire while trying to keep their location on the board secret. The remaining players, well, they lead the hunter factions such as the DEA, the Policía Nacional de Colombia, and the guerrilla extremist groups and others. The separate factions work together to find El Patron and win if they find him twice, but El Patron wins if he's able to either evade the hunters and fulfill his secret objectives or be glorified high enough. Today we're taking a sneak peek at Narcos, the board game by CMON, and I'm providing a mini review, and keeping with the musical theme on my channel, I also call these preludes, since in music, preludes are short introductions leading into the main piece, where here I'll give you a short, high-level overview with some first impression thoughts before my full review, which will come, a little bit later once the game is actually finalized. So let me show you how the game works at a high level, and I'll see you on the other side. El Patron is played by one player, and they can win in one of two ways. One way is to get this glorification tracker all the way up to 18. But throughout the game, they're trying to complete some objectives, and that's another way for them to win the game. Patron will have some hiding locations that they'll be at throughout the game. Now on the left you see a miniature side of the map. That's really what the board looks like in a much bigger scale, but this is sort of the small thing where Patron can look at the little sheet without the other players really seeing what he's looking at, and he'll keep track of where he's at throughout the game. Now the hunter factions, each player plays a different faction, and they're going to be able to alternate turns. So it goes from a hunter's turn all the way to Patron's turn and back and forth. And that goes on through one full season until all of the hunter players have taken a turn. Now each of the hunter factions have some special ability cards, and they each have different people they can move around. This gives them a lot of different things that they can do. So you're talking about who's going to go when, because the order of which hunters go when is fluid. The people get to say which ones go when, but each section of the faction can only go once in each total round. Now the cool thing is, and what makes this very different from other hidden movement games, is Patron only moves at the end of each season, meaning after everyone else has been able to go once. And so he camps down and he's trying to hide himself from where he's at, but he's also doing other things. Like behind here you can see he's got labs with cocoa cubes that he can basically use to go and sell once he gets to the airport, and then they can use that money to allow him to play other cards later, because every time he plays cards it costs money. Now the hunters also have a section of the board that's just for them, and there's specific cards that come out of numbers 1, 2, or 3, and some of the actions need specific numbers, or some of them will tell you what power of that action you can use. So it has a little bit of randomness as to which cards come out, as to which actions you can take, or which ones are powerful enough. But it's interesting because not only do you have your special actions, but each of the factions can take some of these actions. Now, once a spot's taken, they can't go again there that specific round. So you have to kind of figure out who's going to go where, do what, and when and how. Meanwhile, the Patron player is placing some of their own little people out, the Cesarios, and from left to right you can see on the left side it shows you how far away that little miniature has to be from the real hideout, but then it also gives them a certain amount of action points and things to do. So on the left there, the purple one, when they put it down, his hideout's within 2 spaces from there, but he's going to have some powerful actions, where way on the right there might be 4 places from there, but they get to do less action. So it's an interesting ways things work. There's also the smugglers and hitmans that do different things. And again, they also get to take cards and play cards, and depending on how much money they have, they could play other cards. So it's a very tactical card game and cat and mouse from the Patron side. Now, since Patron is only moving at the beginning of each of the major rounds, you're trying to find him. When you find him, essentially he'll get to move to a different spot. And then if you catch him twice over the course of the game, you'll win. Otherwise, Patron will win if he gets to the end of the game and hasn't been caught twice, or fulfills any of those other victory conditions. Well, there's the high-level overview of Narcos. Now, I got a chance to see and somewhat play this a little bit at CMON Expo. Actually, my friends at Man vs. Meeple and Tantrum House were playing the game with a CMON rep, and I got to hang out with them as they were playing it. And since this is a 1 versus many, they had the full 5-player count, but I sat on the side of the hunters, not actually running any one faction, but actually sort of working together with them for about half the game of talking through things and decisions and understanding how the game works. I get to kind of play somewhat almost half a game of this. So I'm going to give you my perceptions of the game after that. So what does this game have going for it? Well, it's tied to the popular Netflix series in its 4th season. And a lot of people apparently really like the show. I don't watch TV, so I'm not that familiar with it. But from what I hear, it's a very popular show and a lot of people like it. So that might be a turn on for a lot of you. This game has great table presence and presentation. Just the way things look, the way you're going through the valleys and the cities and things like that. Also, the components, the miniatures and stuff, it's CMON. Come on, they're going to look awesome. And they do look cool. And so having that on there, having the cocoa cubes on there, the farmlands on there, the different boards and such, it does give a good table presence, as you would expect from CMON. Now, the game has a very strong theme, and even all the actions and such are very thematic as well, where, look, you're El Patron, you're trying to run and build this empire, you're putting out farms that are creating coca cubes, and you're trying to sell those and get to the airport and sell them and then make money, which will allow you to do more actions. And so I liked how it was very thematic and different. I know the theme actually might be a turnoff for some people, but I thought, and again, I don't even watch the TV show, but I thought everything, because it was so thematic and since it was such unique, I really did enjoy it because it really spoke through the gameplay. I like that the hunter factions had different special abilities that they'd use, and as you're talking through, and because, as you saw, the way it works is, the hunters get one turn and they get to choose who gets to take it, and then it's El Patron, and it keeps going back and forth. So El Patron gets a turn between each of them, so you're trying to talk through what your actions might be, what your special abilities are, trying to figure out when's the right time to use them. And I always like that aspect in games, and it's done well here. I like that during the hunter's turns, they're using these cards that have different numbers on them, and there's certain special actions that you could take on that board, but certain actions require certain numbers, and you're not always going to have access to the numbers that you want, and so you're sort of somewhat limited, but there's definitely a lot of choices there, and I like that. It adds a little bit of randomness to the game that will kind of sort of change what you may or may not want to do right now, and I like the aspect of that in this game. I like how you have multiple victory conditions for El Patron, whether they're trying to get their objectives done on their cards or trying to race to that glorification of 18. And I like that they only he moves between rounds, between those other ones, because it kind of gives them a back and forth feel. And a lot of hidden movement games sort of do that. But I like that the actions that they take sort of gives hints to their location. So when it's El Patron's turn, they might bring out one of their Cesarios, but depending on the one they bring out, it basically shows you how close can the hidden hideout be from where this player is. So they might be playing someone specific because they want their ability, but they might be playing someone specific, and usually like the stronger the ability, the closer you know that they are. And I just love the way that is laid out, how that works. And I like that they're trying to basically manage their money, the El Patron player, trying to manage that money with the tactical card play. So they have cards to play that cost certain money to do certain actions, and they're trying to, sell the coca cubes, take them to the airport and sell them in order to get more money, to give them more options of which cards they can play. So it is definitely that cat and mouse there. Now, I love hidden movement games. They're one of my favorites of the genres, and I gotta say, this one is a super fresh take on that genre. It just does it so differently, where you're not just moving and then they're moving and then moving and then moving. It's like El Patron moves once and he's stuck there for the entire round until everyone else gets turns, and they're going to be playing actions and doing different things, but they're there and they're not moving. He's not moving. So you're trying to use your special abilities, and the hunters are trying to use those actions to try to narrow down where they are before he gets a chance to move at the end of the round. And then even then he can only move a certain amount. So it's interesting how he's stuck there and everyone's trying to cast the net, but then he can move, and it's just it felt very different and very fresh on this genre. Now again, I only played barely half a game of this, but I can already see that this is going to be one I'm really looking forward to till the end of the year, because it's a game style that I love, and it seems to be done very well. Of course, CMON does many things really well, but fresh take, lots of different things I like that I mentioned, and I cannot wait to get my hands on this later this year. That's called Narcos, the board game.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com.